In the vast halls of the Galactic Council, aliens of all shapes and sizes gathered. They came from distant planets, each with their own strange looks and customs. The Council ruled over thousands of worlds, but they had never seen anything quite like the humans from Earth. Two human representatives stood before the Council, looking small and out of place. They wore simple suits and had worried looks on their faces. The tall, blue-skinned alien in charge, known as High Counselor Zax, looked down at them with 4 eyes that showed no interest. "Speak, Earthlings," Zax said in a bored voice. "Why have you come before us today?" Sarah Chen, one of the human representatives, stepped forward. Her voice shook a little, but she tried to sound brave. "High Counselor, members of the Galactic Council, we come with urgent news. Our planet is in danger." Whispers and chuckles spread through the alien crowd. Many of them thought humans were silly and weak. They couldn't imagine what kind of danger could threaten such a simple world. Sarah continued, "We have detected a massive fleet heading towards our solar system. We don't know who they are, but their weapons are like nothing we've ever seen. We need help to defend Earth." Zax waved a long, thin hand. "And why should we care about your little problem? Earth is not even a full member of the galactic community. You have no advanced technology, no space fleet. What do you offer us in return for our help?" The other human, John Martinez, spoke up. "We may not have advanced tech, but humans are quick learners. We're creative and determined. If you help us now, we could become valuable allies in the future." This time, the alien crowd laughed out loud. One reptilian creature hissed, "Humans? Valuable? They can barely leave their own planet." Zax raised a hand for silence. "We have heard your request, Earthlings. The Council will discuss it and inform you of our decision." Sarah and John were led out of the Grand Hall. They waited for hours, hoping the Council would see reason. But when they were called back, they knew from the smug looks on the alien faces that things hadn't gone well. "The Galactic Council has made its decision," Zax announced. "We will not intervene in Earth's affairs. Your planet's defenses are your own responsibility. This meeting is adjourned." Sarah couldn't believe it. But you can't just leave us to die. We're part of this galaxy too." John put a hand on her shoulder. "They've made up their minds, Sarah. We need to get back to Earth and prepare as best we can." As the humans left, defeated and angry, most of the aliens quickly forgot about them. They had more important things to worry about than some backwater planet. Only a few felt a twinge of guilt, wondering if they had made a mistake. Weeks later, the Galactic Council received an urgent message. The giant screens in the council chamber lit up, showing scenes of chaos and destruction. Huge, black ships filled Earth's skies, raining down fire on cities. Humans ran screaming as strange creatures poured out of landing crafts, using weapons that turned people to ash. The Council watched in shock as Earth's militaries tried to fight back. Human jets and tanks looked like toys next to the alien invaders. Missiles bounced harmlessly off the big black ships. It was clear that Earth didn't stand a chance. Zax stared at the screens, his blue skin turning a pale shade. We should have listened," he muttered. One of the other council members, a furry creature named Grak, spoke up. "Should we send help now? It's not too late, is it?" But before anyone could answer, the screens went dark. The last image they saw was of the strange alien ships completely surrounding Earth. Then silence. For days, the Council tried to contact Earth. They sent ships to investigate. But it was as if the whole planet had disappeared behind a wall of darkness. No messages got through. No ships could get close. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They had ignored Earth's plea for help, thinking humans were too weak and unimportant. Now they could only wait and wonder what was happening on that distant blue planet. And some began to worry. What if the humans survived? What if they remembered who had abandoned them in their darkest hour? Little did the Council know, their mistake would change the galaxy forever. Earth's story was far from over, and the revenge of humanity was about to begin. The skies over Earth turned black as the alien ships blocked out the sun. Cities around the world lay in ruins, smoke rising from the rubble. The alien invaders, tall creatures with gray skin and glowing red eyes, marched through the streets. They were called the Zarkesh, and they showed no mercy. In what was left of New York City, a group of survivors huddled in an underground subway station. Among them was Sarah Chen, one of the representatives who had begged the Galactic Council for help. She looked at the scared faces around her and felt a mix of sadness and anger. "We can't just hide here forever," Sarah said to the group. "We need to fight back." An old man shook his head. "Fight back? With what? They destroyed our armies like they were nothing." Just then, they heard footsteps echoing through the tunnel. Everyone held their breath, fearing the aliens had found them. But instead, a dirty and tired-looking soldier appeared. It was John Martinez, Sarah's fellow representative. "John," Sarah exclaimed, "you're alive. What's happening out there?" John sat down heavily, his face grim. "It's bad. The Zarkesh have taken over most major cities. But there's hope. The military has a secret base in the Rocky Mountains. They're working on something big." The news spread through the group, a small spark of hope in the darkness. Sarah and John decided to lead the survivors to the secret base. It was a dangerous journey across a country now controlled by aliens. For weeks, they traveled by night, hiding during the day. They saw the destruction the Zarkesh had caused. Once great cities were now alien strongholds. Farms were turned into strange, glowing fields where the invaders grew their own food. But they also saw signs of human resistance. In some towns, people fought back with whatever weapons they could find. Guerrilla fighters ambushed alien patrols. It wasn't enough to win, but it showed that humanity wouldn't give up easily. Finally, after many close calls and losses, the group reached the secret base hidden inside a mountain. They were met by armed guards who almost shot them before realizing they were human. Inside the base, it was like a different world. Scientists and engineers rushed around, working on strange machines. Soldiers trained with weapons Sarah and John had never seen before. General Laura Hayes, the leader of the base, greeted them. She was a tough-looking woman with gray hair and a scar across her cheek. "Welcome to Project Phoenix," she said. "This is where we'll save humanity." The general led them to a large room filled with alien technology. "We've been collecting pieces of Zarkesh tech," she explained. "Our scientists are trying to understand it, to use it against them." Sarah watched as researchers studied a broken alien weapon. Sparks flew as they tried to make it work. In another corner, doctors examined a dead Zarkesh body, trying to find weaknesses. "But how can we beat them?" John asked. "They're so much more advanced than us." The general smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone ready for a fight. "We have something they don't expect, something no other species in the galaxy has." She led them to a sealed room. Inside, a group of people sat in circles, their eyes closed in deep concentration. Suddenly, a metal object on a table started to float. "Psychic powers," the general said. "A few humans have always had these abilities, but we kept it secret. Now, we're finding more people with the gift and training them." Sarah and John watched in amazement as the people in the room made things move without touching them. Some even created fire or ice out of thin air. "This is how we'll fight back," General Hayes said. "We'll combine this power with the alien tech we've stolen. The Zarkesh won't know what hit them." For the first time since the invasion, Sarah felt real hope. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, but they weren't defeated. In this underground base, they were preparing to strike back. "When do we start?" Sarah asked, her eyes shining with determination. The general looked at her with approval. "Training begins tomorrow. It'll be hard and dangerous. But if we succeed, we won't just save Earth. We'll show the whole galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." As Sarah and John joined the others, ready to start their new life as Earth's defenders. They knew one thing for sure. The Zarkesh and the Galactic Council had made a big mistake in underestimating humans. And soon, they would all learn just how high a price that mistake would cost. Deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountain base, Sarah Chen stared at her reflection in a shiny metal wall. She hardly recognized herself. Gone was the scared diplomat who had begged the Galactic Council for help. In her place stood a warrior, her eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. "Focus, Sarah," John Martins said from beside her. His own eyes flickered with a red glow. "Remember what the trainer said. Control your emotions." For 6 months, they had trained alongside hundreds of other humans, learning to use their newfound psychic abilities. Some could move objects with their minds. Others could create fire or ice. A few, like Sarah, could even read thoughts. General Hayes walked into the training room, her face serious. "It's time," she announced. "We're ready to test our new weapon." The soldiers followed her to a massive hangar. Inside stood a sight that made everyone gasp. It was a spaceship, but unlike anything humans had built before. Its sleek black surface was covered in glowing blue lines that pulsed with energy. "This is the Phoenix," the general said proudly. "Built with Zarkesh technology and powered by human psychic energy. It's our key to taking back Earth." Sarah and John, along with 20 other trained psychics, were chosen for the first mission. As they boarded the ship, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and fear. They were about to take the fight to the aliens who had nearly destroyed their world. Inside the Phoenix, there were no buttons or controls. Instead, the psychic soldiers sat in circular pods, connecting their minds directly to the ship. Sarah closed her eyes, and suddenly, she could feel the Phoenix as if it were part of her body. "All systems ready," John's voice echoed in her mind. "Let's show these aliens what humans can do." The hangar doors opened, and the Phoenix shot into the sky faster than any Earth ship had ever moved. In seconds, they were in space, heading towards a Zarkesh battle cruiser that orbited the planet. The alien ship spotted them and opened fire. But the Phoenix moved with impossible speed, dodging every shot. Sarah felt the ship respond to her thoughts, twisting and turning in ways that defied normal physics. "Weapons ready," one of the soldiers announced mentally. "Permission to fire." General Hayes' voice came through their communication system. "Permission granted. Give 'em hell." The Phoenix's weapons were like nothing the Zarkesh had ever seen. Beams of pure psychic energy shot out, cutting through the alien ship shields like they weren't even there. Explosions rocked the massive cruiser. But the Zarkesh weren't done. They launched fighters, hundreds of small ships swarming towards the Phoenix. "We can't fight them all," John shouted. Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. She could feel the other psychics on board, their powers joining with hers. "Together," she said. "We're stronger together." As one, the humans focused their psychic energy. A massive wave of force exploded from the Phoenix, catching the Zarkesh fighters and crushing them like paper. The battle was over in minutes. The Zarkesh cruiser floated dead in space, and not a single enemy fighter remained. As the Phoenix returned to Earth, cheers erupted from the base. For the first time since the invasion, humanity had won a major victory. News spread quickly around the world, rekindling hope in those still fighting on the ground. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. As she stepped off the ship, General Hayes was waiting with a grim smile. "Well done," the general said. "But we can't stop here. The Zarkesh will be ready for us next time. We need to push them off Earth completely." John nodded, his eyes still glowing faintly. "And then what? Do we just wait for the next alien race to attack us?" The general's smile turned fierce. "No. Once Earth is free, we take the fight to them, to the Zarkesh homeworld. And then," she paused, looking at each of the psychic soldiers, "then we pay a visit to the Galactic Council. It's time they learned that humans aren't to be underestimated." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but also a sense of righteous anger. The Galactic Council had abandoned Earth in its darkest hour. Now, they would face the consequences of that mistake. As the team dispersed to rest and prepare for the battles ahead, Sarah looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council sat in their comfortable chambers, unaware of the storm that was coming. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy, and heaven help anyone who stood in their way. The skies over Earth's major cities blazed with light as human and Zarkesh ships clashed in fierce battles. It had been 3 months since the Phoenix's first victory, and now humanity had a fleet of psychic-powered ships. The tide of war was turning. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, renamed Vengeance. Her eyes glowed bright blue as she coordinated the attack with her mind. Beside her, John Martinez focused on defensive maneuvers, a red aura surrounding him. Zarkesh forces are retreating from New York, a voice reported in their shared mental link. London is clear, moving to assist in Tokyo. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Push them back. Don't let them regroup. The battle for Earth had become a test of wills. The Zarkesh, once confident in their superiority, now fought with desperation. They had never faced an enemy like the humans, who seemed to grow stronger with each defeat. As the fighting raged on, news of Earth's resistance spread across the galaxy. On distant planets, other races watched in amazement as humans, once thought primitive, drove back the feared Zarkesh fleet. In a Zarkesh command ship high above the planet, Supreme Commander Vexlor watched the battle with growing horror. His forces were losing, their advanced technology no match for the humans' strange new powers. "How is this possible?" he growled, his red eyes flashing with anger. "They were nothing but insects when we arrived." His second-in-command, a battle-scarred warrior named Kraz, spoke carefully. "The humans, they've changed. Our weapons pass right through their ships sometimes, like they're not even there. And their attacks, it's like they can see our moves before we make them." Vexlor slammed his fist on the control panel. "Impossible. No species develops so quickly. This must be the work of the Galactic Council. They've given the humans advanced technology." But deep down, Vexlor knew this wasn't true. The Galactic Council had ignored his warnings about attacking Earth, calling it an unimportant planet. Now he realized they had all underestimated these strange, determined creatures. Back on the Vengeance, Sarah felt a shift in the battle. The Zarkesh were pulling back, retreating to their main fleet in orbit. "They're running," she said, her voice filled with grim satisfaction. John nodded, sweat beading on his forehead from the mental strain. "Should we pursue?" Sarah was about to agree when General Hayes' voice cut in. "Negative. Hold position. We've just detected a transmission from the Zarkesh command ship. They're calling for reinforcements." A chill ran through the human forces. They had won many battles, but could they face an even larger Zarkesh army? "We can't let them bring more ships," Sarah said firmly. "We need to end this now." General Hayes' voice was steady. "Agreed. All ships, prepare for our final attack. Operation Thunderbolt is a go." The human fleet moved as one, their ships forming a massive arrow pointed at the heart of the Zarkesh Armada. On board each vessel, psychic soldiers joined their powers, creating a shield of pure energy around the fleet. Supreme Commander Vexlor watched in disbelief as the humans advanced. All ships opened fire. Stop them at all costs. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams and explosions, but the human ships pressed on, protected by their psychic shield. Zarkesh vessels exploded left and right, unable to withstand the combined psychic assault. In the chaos of battle, the Vengeance broke through the Zarkesh lines, heading straight for the command ship. Sarah stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes now glowing white with power. "This ends now," she said, her voice echoing with the thoughts of every human in the fleet. With a gesture, Sarah unleashed a beam of pure psychic energy. It struck the Zarkesh command ship, cutting it in half. The explosion lit up Earth's orbit like a second sun. As the Zarkesh command fell, their fleet fell into disarray. Some ships fled, jumping to hyperspace in panic. Others surrendered, powering down their weapons. The Bridge of the Vengeance erupted in cheers. After months of brutal fighting, Earth had won. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. But as the celebration raged around her, Sarah's mind was already turning to the future. Earth was safe for now. But the galaxy was vast, filled with races that had dismissed humanity as weak and primitive. It was time to show them how wrong they were. The Galactic Council would be next, and after that, the stars themselves would learn to fear the name of Earth. 6 months after Earth's victory over the Zarkash, the planet was a hive of activity. Humans worked tirelessly to rebuild their cities, but now with a new purpose. Earth was no longer just a home to protect. It was becoming the center of a rapidly growing empire. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Terran Command Center, watching holographic displays of Earth's expanding influence. Dozens of alien worlds, once ignored or oppressed by the Galactic Council, now flew Earth's flag. "Report from the Andromeda sector," John Martin had said, walking up to her. His eyes flickered with red energy as he connected to the psychic network. "The Florians have agreed to join our alliance. They're impressed by our victory over the Zarkash." Sarah nodded, a small smile on her face. "Good. Their plant-based technology will be useful. How are our new ships coming along?" As if in answer, a massive shadow fell over the command center's windows. Outside, a ship unlike any seen before in the galaxy slowly rose into the sky. It was the Earthshaker, humanity's new flagship, powered by the combined psychic energy of 1,000 trained humans. General Hayes, now Admiral of Earth's growing fleet, joined them at the window. "Beautiful, isn't she? With ships like these, no one in the galaxy will dare threaten us again." But Sarah's smile faded as she turned to face the Admiral. "And what about those who already have? The Galactic Council still hasn't responded to our messages." John's expression darkened. "They're probably hoping if they ignore us long enough, we'll just go away. Fat chance of that." Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. "Which is why we're accelerating our plans. The fleet will be ready to move on the Council's headquarters within the month." As the three leaders discussed strategy, news of Earth's rising power spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On countless worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes watched with a mix of awe and fear as humans, once dismissed as primitive, reshaped the galactic order. In a dingy bar on a distant space station, a group of alien merchants huddled around a holoscreen, watching footage of Earth's new ships. "I heard they can destroy entire fleets with their minds," one whispered, his tentacles quivering. Another, a reptilian creature, hissed in disagreement. "Impossible. No species evolves that quickly. They must have had help." "Help," laughed a third, a being of pure energy. "Who would help them? The Galactic Council left them to die. Now the humans are out for blood." Back on Earth, Sarah was in a meeting with representatives from their new alien allies. The room was filled with diverse beings, the plant-like Florians, the crystalline Zix, and even a few reformed Zarkash who had chosen to side with Earth. "Our intelligence suggests the Galactic Council is finally starting to take us seriously," Sarah said, her voice calm but firm. "They're calling for an emergency session to discuss the human problem." A Florian representative, its leaves rustling with agitation, spoke up. "They fear you, as they should. But what is our plan? Surely you don't intend to destroy the Council?" Sarah's eyes flashed blue for a moment. "Destroy? No, we're not conquerors or tyrants. We're going to reform the Council, make it truly representative of all species in the galaxy, including those they've ignored or oppressed." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. Admiral Hayes' voice filled the room. "We've just intercepted a transmission. The Galactic Council has made its decision. They're gathering a fleet to contain the human threat." A tense silence fell over the room. Then, slowly, Sarah stood up, her eyes now glowing brightly. "It seems the Council needs one final lesson." she said, her voice eerily calm. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to meet them halfway." As the alien representatives hurried out to spread the news, John approached Sarah. "Are you sure about this? We could be starting a war that engulfs the entire galaxy." Sarah turned to her old friend, determination etched on her face. "The war started the moment they abandoned us, John. We're just finally bringing it to their doorstep." Outside, the Earthshaker and hundreds of other ships began to rise into the sky. Humanity was about to take its place on the galactic stage, and the Galactic Council would be the first to witness their full power. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when these two forces finally clashed. The vast emptiness of space was suddenly filled with light as hundreds of ships dropped out of hyperspace. At the front of this armada was the massive Earthshaker, its hull glowing with psychic energy. Earth's fleet had arrived at the galactic core, ready to confront the Council. On the bridge of the Earthshaker, Sarah Chen stood tall, her eyes blazing with blue fire. Beside her, John Martinez monitored the fleet's psychic network, his own eyes flickering red. "Galactic Council ships detected," John announced. "They're moving to intercept." Sarah nodded, her face grim. "Open a channel to their flagship. It's time they faced us directly." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the shocked face of High Counselor Zax. The blue-skinned alien's 4 eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized Sarah. "You," Zax exclaimed. "How dare you bring an armed fleet to this sacred galactic core? Leave immediately or face destruction." Sarah's laugh was cold and without humor. "Destruction. Like the destruction you left Earth to face alone." "No, Counselor, we're not going anywhere. It's time for the Council to answer for its crimes." As Sarah spoke, more ships appeared around the galactic core. These were vessels from Earth's new allies, the Florians, the Zix, and others who had suffered under the Council's neglect. Zax's face paled. "What is the meaning of this? Those races have no authority here." "They have every right to be here," John cut in. "More right than you, who ignored their pleas for help for centuries." On board the Council's flagship, panic was setting in. Admiral Krelks, a veteran of 1,000 battles, watched the human fleet with growing dread. "High Counselor," Krelks said, his voice shaking. "The humans, their ships are unlike anything we've ever seen. And our sensors, they can't get a clear reading. It's like they're there and not there at the same time." Zax turned to the Admiral, fear finally showing in his eyes. "Surely our fleet can handle them. We outnumber them 2-1. Back on the Earthshaker, Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind to the thousands of psychic humans in the fleet. "Everyone, prepare for battle. Remember your training. We are not here for revenge, but for justice. Show them the true power of humanity." As one, the human ships began to glow brighter. Streams of energy flowed between them, forming a vast, intricate web. The Council fleet opened fire first, thousands of energy beams streaking across space towards the human ships. But at the last second, the beams seemed to bend around the human vessels, passing harmlessly into empty space. "Impossible," Zax screamed, watching the attack fail. "How are they doing this?" Now it was Earth's turn. The Earthshaker led the charge, a massive beam of pure psychic energy erupting from its bow. It struck the Council's flagship, cutting through its shields like they weren't even there. All around, the battle raged. Human ships danced between enemy fire, their movements defying the laws of physics. Wherever they went, Council ships fell, disabled by weapons that seemed to ignore all known defenses. In less than an hour, it was over. The Council fleet floated dead in space, most ships disabled, a few destroyed. The Earthshaker moved in close to the Council's crippled flagship. "High Counselor Zax," Sarah's voice boomed across all channels. "Your fleet is defeated. Your rule is at an end. Surrender now and face justice for your crimes against Earth and all the races you've ignored." On the Council ship, Zax slumped in his chair, defeat written across his alien features. We surrender," he said, his voice barely a whisper. As human ships moved in to board the council vessels, John turned to Sarah. "We did it," he said, a note of awe in his voice. "We actually did it." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. "This was the easy part, John. Now comes the real challenge, reshaping the galaxy into a place of true justice and equality." As the Earthshaker's crew celebrated around them, Sarah and John looked out at the stars. The galaxy was entering a new age, the age of humanity. And for better or worse, nothing would ever be the same again. 1 year after the battle at the Galactic core, the Great Hall of the former Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Representatives from hundreds of worlds, many never before given a voice, gathered for a historic meeting. At the center of it all stood Sarah Chen, her eyes still glowing faintly blue. Beside her, John Martinez watched the crowd, his own eyes flickering red as he monitored the psychic network that now connected much of the galaxy. "Order, please," Sarah called out, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "The first meeting of the new Galactic Alliance is now in session." As the noise died down, Sarah looked out at the sea of alien faces. There were the tall, plant-like Florians, the crystalline Zix, even a group of reformed Zarkesh. And among them all, humans from Earth, no longer out of place but standing proud. 1 year ago, Sarah began, we came here as conquerors, driven by anger at the old council's betrayal. But today we come as partners, ready to build a better future for all. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Many races had suffered under the old council's rule, ignored or exploited. Now, for the first time, they had a real say in galactic affairs. John stepped forward, activating a huge holographic display. Our first order of business is to address the imbalance of technology across the galaxy. Earth will be sharing its advancements, including controlled psychic abilities, with all member worlds. This announcement caused a stir, and Elder Florian rose, its leaves quivering with excitement. Does this mean we too could develop powers like yours? Sarah nodded, smiling. With training, many species show potential for psychic abilities. We believe this power should be used for the good of all, not hoarded by a few. As the meeting continued, news of the changes spread across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings gathered around view screens, watching in awe as their universe transformed. On a dusty planet at the edge of known space, a group of furry aliens cheered as they watched the broadcast. For centuries, their pleas for help against solar radiation had been ignored. Now they were being offered shield technology that would save their world. In a bustling spaceport, traders from a dozen species discussed the new galactic economy. With Earth's faster-than-light travel technology now shared, trade routes that once took years could be completed in days. But not everyone was happy with the new order. In a dark corner of the galaxy, the remnants of the old council plotted. Former High Counselor Zax, now in hiding, met with others who had escaped justice. "This cannot stand," Zax hissed, his once proud form now hunched and bitter. "Humans were never meant to have such power. We must find a way to stop them." Back in the Great Hall, the meeting was wrapping up. Sarah stood to make a final address. "Today marks a new beginning," she said, her voice filled with hope. "But we must remain vigilant. There are still those who would return us to the old ways of ignorance and fear. It is up to all of us to ensure that never happens." As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared. John's eyes flashed bright red as he received an urgent psychic message. "Sarah," he said urgently, "we've detected a massive energy buildup in the Andromeda sector. It looks like it can't be." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Zarkesh superweapons. They're making a last, desperate stand." The hall erupted in panic, but Sarah raised her hand, calling for calm. "This is the moment we've prepared for," she said, her voice steady. "We face this threat not as individual races, but as a united galaxy." As if on cue, representatives from a dozen worlds stepped forward, offering their forces to help. Even former enemies stood together, ready to defend their new alliance. Sarah felt a surge of pride as she watched. This, she realized, was the true victory. Not defeating the old council, but bringing the galaxy together as one. "Send out the call," she said to John. "The Galactic Alliance faces its first test. Let's show the universe what we can do when we stand united." As the Great Hall emptied, ships from 100 worlds prepared for battle. The age of humanity had brought great changes to the galaxy, but the greatest adventures and challenges still lay ahead.